Now, you might think it'll never happen to you and that cyber criminals wouldn't look twice at your business. But according to the latest research from internet security giant Symantec, small businesses are especially vulnerable. In fact, targeted attacks are growing the most among businesses with fewer than 250 employees. And this small business sector accounted for a whopping 31% of all attacks last year. Bottom line is, small businesses need to be more aware. We called in the Director of Specialist Solutions at Symantec to find out his tips to help defend your business against cyber predators.
Hi Sean, thanks for joining us. Now, the recent Internet Security Threat Report just out from Symantec identified that small businesses are increasingly susceptible to cyber espionage. Why is this? What's changed?
So what we're actually seeing, we've seen a big growth in the small business attacks, and previously it was around about 18% of businesses under 250 seats were targeted attacks, and we've actually seen that grow now to 31%, so it's quite a big growth. And what we actually find is that small businesses actually have access to just as much information as the big banks and big financial institutions out there, so they're just as an important a targeting attack for the hackers out there in the community.
So what is it that makes small businesses such easy targets to cyber attacks?
Yeah, certainly. Look, one of the challenges is that big enterprises tend to have the resources and the skills and the money to put in the right level of protection. But what you actually find is a lot of small businesses either think they're not a targeted attack, so they don't bother spending the investment and resources to protect themselves, or they just don't have the skills or knowledge to actually build in the right infrastructure. So it actually makes them a lot easier target point for the hackers to go for.
Is there anything that they're doing or not doing for that matter that makes them particularly vulnerable?
Look, a couple of simpler things. A lot of small businesses forget to do some of the most simple things, like implement good security technologies into their environment to protect themselves. We find so many small businesses today don't even back up their information appropriately easier, so they also become a simple attack from that point as well.
And what sort of attacks are you seeing more of?
Yeah, look, we're seeing a couple of quite interesting ones. So there's always this concept of what we refer to as spear phishing. So that's when we actually, you find hackers create a very targeted message that may be through an email to a set individual within the company to encourage them to take action, open up a link or to go to a website that has a vulnerability. Right. So that's one area that we're actually seeing, but we're seeing a big shift to a new concept, which is actually a concern for small businesses. We call ransomware, where hackers are actually going into small businesses and locking down and encrypting all their critical information and actually demanding them to pay a ransom. We've seen up to $3,000 to $4,000 to actually release that information.
Are there any particular industries that are getting targeted more?
So look, we see all types of industries get targeted, but what we've actually seen in our research this year is a big trend to move towards the manufacturing industries. So around about a quarter of all attacks that we actually see are focused on manufacturing and what we call the knowledge user. So basically engineers or researchers who have access to intellectual property that would be of value to the hacker.
Right, and what are the clues then? What sort of warning signs can you look out for?
Yeah, so look, a couple of different areas. Sometimes it may be just eventually they realise when they review their security logs that it actually flags that information has been leaving their network. We see companies realise that there's a lot of traffic going outside of their company over their internet service provider that they shouldn't have, and when they dig into that, they realise information is flowing to a less than reputable environment.
And with all this in mind, what can small businesses do to protect themselves?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of really simple things that small businesses can do. So first of all, they've got to make sure that things like their operating systems are up to date, their software is up to date, because when there are security vulnerabilities, patches become available from the vendors and they need to make sure that they install those. So that's one simple one that everyone should do. The second one is they've got to make sure that they back up their information and install at least some basic level security in their environment and keep that up to date, run regular scans, things like that as well. Another third one that we encourage everyone, and this is just an education point, is use complex passwords. Far too often we actually see that the 5 most common passwords are out there, either the numbers 1 to 5. Believe it or not, the password is so commonly used. So something a little bit more complex, and don't use the same thing everywhere. So don't use the same password and username on a simple web service as you do on your banking site, for example. So there's sort of 3 simple ones that people should look at doing. And then just a couple other little things that are educational based is think before you click. So if you get an email from someone you don't know with an odd looking link, don't be excited to click on that and follow that through to those environments. And look, a final simple one that small businesses can do is actually work with trusted companies and trusted partners. So if you go into a website to exchange money or do something that's a little bit more concerning around security, make sure it's a trusted or reputable provider that you're actually working with.
And looking at data storage, is it safer to store on-site or look to move things into the cloud?
Look, that's a really good point, Alex. And what we're actually finding is one of the challenges of small businesses, as I said before, is they don't have the skill sets to look after the information. So there is actually a lot of benefit by moving services or information into the cloud, because quite often if you're using a well-known cloud provider, they have a very strong security policies, good security experts. It's their business to make sure that your information is protected. So if you don't have the resources or the skills, it can be very cost effective and actually improve and help improve your security by looking at good cloud service providers to help manage your services.
Thanks very much, Sean. Good to see you.
Thank you.